In the other motion metrics, we're looking at pronation, and this is very, very interesting. Hey everyone, and welcome back on the channel. My name is Alex and welcome to today's video, which is special in the sense that we never really did a comparison within an entire lineup of a brand, and today we're doing this with the new 2021 ADIZERO lineup from Adidas. So we have the Adidas Adizero Adios 6, the Boston 10, the Adios Pro 2 and the Prime X. We already have some first impression reviews for the Adios 6, the Boston 10 and the Prime X, which I'll put a link towards here upper right hand corner. And today we're simply doing what we do here on the channel, meaning, comparing the metrics, the data, giving one word for each shoe and then giving points. And at the end I will give my recommendations for stability runners, light runners, cadence runners, stride runners, any sort of type of runner that exists and maybe that you are, so that you know which one to pick. If you're new here, please be welcome first of all, and don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell, all that good stuff. It really helps the channel, and thank you for doing that. All right, without no further ado, let's dive in and let's begin with the specs and the weights. So Adios 6, 256 grams, Boston 10, 333 grams, Adios Pro 2, 243 grams, and Prime X, 288 grams. This is in my size US 11 for the Adios 6, for the Boston 10, but half a size down, meaning US 10.5 for the Adios Pro 2 and for the Prime X. We'll come back to that in the fit section of the video, but just so you know, so US 11 for those two, US 10.5 for these. I tested the shoes at two different paces, 5 minutes per kilometer and 3:30 per kilometer. So these are two different paces that for me are an easy pace and something like a half marathon, 10K type of pace, depending on the moment of the season and my fitness level. This is to give you the best possible idea of how the shoes behave at two different paces that are quite opposite, one quite easy and the other one close to that threshold pace. And I think it's good to have this in mind, because the shoes can change, and it's the case for some of these. At a certain pace, when you increase the pace, the shoe can really become different, and this is the reason why. So two different paces, 5 minutes per kilometer and 3:30 per kilometer. In terms of stack heights and drops, we have some weird animals here in terms of stack heights, but let's begin with the Adios 6. We're looking at 27 in the heel, 19 in the forefoot, so it's that 8 millimeters drop. Boston 10, we have 39 in the heel, 31 in the forefoot, 8 millimeters drop as well. Here on the Adios Pro 2, we have 39.5 in the heel, 29.5 in the forefoot, 10 millimeters drop. And on the Prime X, we have 50 in the heel, and not official, but my measurement and my feeling, 45 in the forefoot, so 4 to 5 millimeters drop is what I think the Prime X has. Essentially here with the cadence, the most interesting thing is that at 5 minutes per kilometer, the cadence is pretty much the same. It's the highest with the Boston 10 and the lowest with the Adios Pro. And then at 3:30 per kilometer, the highest cadence is with the Adios 6 and the Prime X. So quite interesting there. Responsiveness, so we're looking at contact times, and for that we have really two different categories. At 5 minutes per kilometer, the shoe that is a bit less responsive is the Boston 10, but then at 3:30 the shoe that is the most responsive is the Adios Pro, and the least responsive is the Prime X. So that's at 3:30 per kilometer. Now in terms of efficiency, we're looking at power, so essentially the amount of energy that you have to produce in order to maintain a certain pace. And so for that, at 5 minutes per kilometer, so easy pace, the shoe that is the most efficient seems to be the Prime X. But then at 3:30 minutes per kilometer, Quite surprisingly, the shoe that seems to be the most efficient is the Boston 10. This may be a data gimmick because it doesn't feel to be the most efficient at 330 per kilometer. And if it wasn't the most efficient, if it's a data error, then it would be the Adios 6 that would be the most efficient. And no big surprise here, this shoe is designed for 5K, 10K races. So it's quite logical that it's the most efficient, or at least that it requires the least amount of energy at those 10K half marathon type of pace. Now, in terms of leg pounding, we're looking at the shock metrics, and for that we have here again at 5 minutes per kilometer, all are pretty much in the same ballpark. The Adios Pro 2 and the Prime X seem to be a bit less pounding on the legs at 5 minutes per kilometer, but at 330, the shoe that is the most pounding on the legs is the Boston 10, and the least pounding is apparently the Adios Pro 2. This kind of makes sense because the Prime X and the Pro 2 have that single layer Lightstrike Pro midsole, which is a bit softer than the combo of regular Lightstrike and Lightstrike Pro. So I think it makes sense that the Adios Pro 2 is the least pounding shoe among all of these at the half marathon 10K type of pace. That's actually what I feel. I would have said, based on my feelings, so subjectively, I would have picked the Prime X as being the least pounding, but this is what the data shows. Now, foot strike type, so we have basically a scale going from 0 to 16, 0 being the heel and 16 being the forefoot. So the value corresponds to where I'm striking with each of the shoes. The one quite interesting thing is that at both paces, 5 minutes per kilometer and 330, I'm striking the most with my forefoot on the Adios Pro 2. And for everyone who experienced this shoe, you can tell that the propulsion and the real impact of the plate happens around here in that forefoot area. So it actually makes a lot of sense that I'm striking the most on the forefoot on the Adios Pro 2. Then quite interestingly as well, on the Prime X, I'm striking quite far back, well, still forefoot, but more towards the midfoot, and that's most likely to take advantage of the huge rocker of this shoe. As you can see, the rocker design here, and this shoe really has that rocker motion, and that helps you transition from the midfoot to the forefoot and then the propulsion. And I think that's the reason why I'm striking more towards the midfoot. It's really to take that full advantage of the rocker. So that's for the Prime X. Now, in the other motion metrics, we're looking at pronation, and this is very, very interesting. Why so? Because as you can see, all the shoes, the Adios, the Boston, and the Adios Pro 2 have pretty much the same values, albeit that the Adios 6 has a bit more pronation than the two others, but it's similar, the same ballpark. And then you have the Prime X, which is considered, or at least many people say it's very unstable, and I fully agree. Walking with it and running at very, very slow paces, so striking maybe more towards the heel, it feels really unstable, that's for sure. But then once you pick up the paces, and so here at 5 minutes per kilometer, you have a very, very low pronation. But even at 330, you have a pronation that is quite low. And so very interestingly, I think this shoe has some stability that comes around with the higher paces. So quite interesting if you're considering this shoe, to keep in mind that if it feels unstable when walking in it, when jogging in it, it's not necessary that you will have the same type of instability, or at least that same type of pronation, excessive pronation, which again is not bad. Pronation is a good safety mechanism that our body develops, but this shoe doesn't have a ton of pronation, at least. So this is really interesting. pronation velocity. So essentially, for everyone who's new here on the channel, you have the pronation, so it's the motion, and the angle that we just discussed is the angle between the moment you touch the ground and the moment you have the maximal pronation. But then you also have the second metric, which is pronation velocity. So that angle, you can have it very slow or very fast. And research tends to show that the faster the pronation velocity, the higher the injury risk. So here in terms of pronation velocity, again, very interestingly, the shoe that has the least pronation velocity is the Prime X. That can be linked to the very high stack. So, because you have more stack and, essentially you're not using that pronation angle at a very high pace, at a very high angular speed, because you have more stack and therefore you are going a bit slower. I don't know if it makes sense explained this way, but that's how I see it. The shoe that has the most pronation velocity at 5 minutes per kilometer is the Adios 6, and then at 3:30 it's the Boston 10. So yeah, I think that's also quite interesting. Now, Durometer score, and you have them on your screen right now. As you can see, we have Lightstrike Pro on all of these shoes, but I haven't measured it at the same Durometer level. The softest Lightstrike Pro midsole is on the Prime X, and that is exactly what I experienced. This is the softest one across the board here. Then we have the Adios 6, which doesn't feel really soft because you have more ground feel and you have that regular Lightstrike layer below the Lightstrike Pro here in the forefoot, but the compound is used apparently in a soft way. Keep in mind that this is very close values, so it doesn't really mean that there's a huge difference, but interesting to compare the sensations with what you're experiencing. And then the Lightstrike Pro is the hardest on the Boston 10. Then we have two shoes, the Adios 6 and the Boston, that have some regular Lightstrike, and here the values are very similar, higher than the Lightstrike Pro, which is debated. Is it PBA? Is it a blend of TPU, EVA, or another blend? But anyways, it's softer than the Lightstrike. And then in terms of outsoles, the outsoles on the ADIZERO Adios Pro 2 and the Prime X are the softest. As you can see, these are the very slick, and even when you touch them, they feel very soft. And then you have something harder on the Adios 6 and on the Boston. In terms of width of the platforms, basically the Adios 6 is the most narrow shoe of the four. And then we have the Adios Pro 2, which is the second most narrow. Then we have the Prime X. Actually, those three, the Adios, the Pro 2 and the Prime X, are very similar and quite narrow. And the widest one is the Boston 10 by quite a significant margin, as you can see with the numbers on your screen. Now let's jump to the second section of the video. We'll use one word, or at least one word at a time, to describe each shoe. And we'll begin with the Adios 6. Adios 6, I will go with responsive, ground feel, and peppy. Boston 10 is heavy, and yeah, not a great surprise. I already used heavy in the comparison between the Adios 6 and the Boston. There's a shoe battle. Upper right hand corner you have the link if you want to see the head-to-head battle between these two. But yeah, it's heavy and not very surprising. Adidas Pro 2, I will go with agile and upgrade. Agile and upgrade. Prime X, I will go with bulky, soft, and controversial. Yeah, because I think it's quite controversial. That's for the one word section here, and then let's go to the points. Because we have 4 shoes this time, we'll go like that. So for each section of the shoe, we'll give 3 points to the best one, 2 to the second best, and 1 point to the third, and the fourth one doesn't get any point, if that makes sense to you. So upper, I will go with the... Yeah, this is quite difficult. Upper, I will go with the Adios. 3 points for the Adios. It's the most breathable one, and yeah, 3 points for the Adios, and then I would go with 2 points for the Adios Pro 2 and 1 for the Prime X. You may ask, why are you giving different points for the Pro 2 and the Prime X? These are both two, you know, the same upgraded Cello Mesh 2.0 upper. The Prime X has a tongue that doesn't quite work as well as the one on the Pro 2, so this is the reason why. And the Boston doesn't get any point. The upper is way too thick, and I don't quite enjoy it. Midsole, I'm gonna go with 3 points for the Pro 2, 2 points for the Adios 6, and 1 point for the Prime X. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. Why so? Simply because this one feels, again, the most agile and the one that can do pretty much everything. I quite like the midsole and you know, the way it was designed on the Adios 6. And yeah, I mean, Prime X is different, enjoyable, fun. And although it's too much, it's still, it deserves 1 point. For the outsole, I'm gonna go with 3 points for the Prime X, 2 points for the Pro 2, and 1 point for the Adios 6. Why so? There's a bit too much rubber on these two. I mean, it's fine, but there's a bit too much of it. And I think the durability may be impacted by the fact they went with those stripes. Whereas those slick midsoles work very well, are very grippy. And here you have additional stripes on the and here you have additional grip on the Prime X, so 3, 2, and 1. 0 for the Boston 10. In terms of ride, I will go with 3 points for the Adios Pro 2, 2 points for the 2 points for the Prime X, and 1 point for the Adios 6. It could be 2, 1, 1, 2, but yeah, I had some fun with the Prime X, so let's give it 2 points and 1 for the Adios 6, 0 for the Boston 10. In terms of fit, 3 points for the Adios 6, best fit, 2 points for the Adios Pro 2, and 1 point for the Boston, 0 points for the Prime X. The fit wasn't great. This being said, I'm happy with the choice of going half a size down on these two and true to size on this one. Yeah, I think it was the right choice. Now on the Pro 2, maybe true to size could have worked as well, but half a size down is fine. It's a long shoe. Definitely half a size down on the Prime X was the best choice ever. And now the price, well here, no big surprise. 3 points for the Adios 6, yeah, 2 points for the Boston 10. Let's give it 2 points it deserves. 130 euros, 150 euros, and then 1 point for the Pro 2, 220, which is a good price actually for everything it does. 0 for the Prime X. It's too expensive for a shoe that is that controversial, despite all the technologies. Yeah, so 3, 2, 1, and 0 here. Now very quickly, which shoe is best for each type of runner? Heel striker, I would go with the Pro 2, but yeah, Pro 2. Midfoot striker, you could pick pretty much anyone. You will take greatest advantage of the rocker here on the Prime X if you're a midfoot striker. Forefoot striker, Pro 2 for sure. Heavy runner, you could go Prime X or Boston, but I would recommend Boston because it feels a bit more stable at slower paces. Light runner, Adios 6 or Pro 2, no doubt. And stability runner, difficult to give, you know, a clear assessment here, but I would tend to pick either the Boston or the Pro 2 if you're looking for some stability, keeping in mind that none of these shoes are designed for stability runners. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the mega review of the Adizero 2021 lineup. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Enjoy your run today, your rides. Let me know in the comments if you have questions, and most importantly, go beyond your limits and take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.